Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's famous advent calendar. It's day number six. I'm joined by two people you were probably knew you're gonna have on day number 6, but we're joined by the Sheriff and Mr. Daigle. It's going to be a really good one. We're going to be having a bit of a reminisce about some of the players on this list. This is a banger. This is probably one of the better ones. Number 6 is a very famous shirt in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club for many, many reasons. But firstly, Sheriff, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm all good, sir. I'm all good. Wishing everybody a marvellous festive period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Mr. Daigle, how are you doing this morning, afternoon, evening, sir?
I'm doing good, Ben, brother. What I will say is, obviously, when you and me started picking the players for certain days, there are days that I would consider blockbusters.
Yeah. And
there's days that I would say epic flops, but kind of those movies that are so bad that they're good.
Yeah.
Today, most certainly, is one of the blockbusters.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to do this one.
It's going to be a really good one. But it's the Tottenham on Tour Christmas Advent Calendar, which means we start with a Christmas cracker joke. So, Mr. Sheriff, you're going to get the ball rolling, sir. What is your Christmas cracker joke?
Now, mine is, what do you get if you eat Christmas decorations?
I know this one. I know it. See,
I don't know this one.
I do. I think I know it. Tinselitis.
Tinselitis.
Ha ha!
I'm here all week.
You're here all week. And now, Mr. Daigle.
Okay.
What is your one?
It's about time we bring some controversy to these jokes and have a little stab at some people or a bit woke. So, what is a vegan's favourite Christmas carol?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Soy to the world.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that's not controversial. We're trying to up our vegan fan base here on Tottenham on Tour. We're trying to up them. But finally, it is my one. What is the best Christmas present in the world?
I could say something very easily here, but I'm not going to. It's not that show.
No. I was going to say that's for another show.
What is?
Show?
What's the answer?
A broken drum. You just can't beat it.
Jesus Christ. You got to see. I am loving these, and remember, people, when you get to watch these, please put in your comment who had joke of the day. We're gonna have a running tally.
We are here all week, all of us.
We are here. All week. We're here for 25 days.
Yes,
we are.
We're here for 25 days.
We are indeed. And as we said, Ben, we're starting. This is a blockbuster of a day, and we're doing this in chronological order. Mm-hmm. And we are starting with a very, very big hitter for this football club, who is synonymous, whether it's you watched him or you've seen a certain photo of him. I haven't chosen that photo because apparently he doesn't like it or didn't like it whilst he was alive, bless him.
Yeah.
None other than the original hard man, Mr. Dave Mackay. Ben, I hand it over to you, buddy.
I mean, when you think of captains of this football club, he's one of them. And he wasn't even the captain. Steve Perryman was a captain, and you'll hear him on his list because it's number 6. Danny Blanchflower was the captain of that team. Yeah. But the guy synonymous with leadership of that team, of course, was Dave Mackay. One absolute monster of a footballer. Brilliant manager as well. Won league titles at other clubs like, I can't remember which other team. I think it was Derby.
Was it Derby?
Yeah, it was Derby. It was Derby.
League title at Tottenham. The last time we won a league title, this was a proper footballer. Yeah. What a footballer. And you said he didn't like that picture of him and Billy Bremner. It's because he didn't want to be seen as a thug. He wanted to be seen as a footballer. Because that is what he was. He wasn't a thug. He was a joyous footballer to watch. One of the If he was playing now, he would be the best fielder in the world. Hands down. He had everything. He was strong in the tackle. He was a good passer of the ball with Danny Blanchflower. What a footballer. We'll take it to you, Mr. Cousins. I know you didn't see him either. It's past all three of our generations. But what does this club is with Mr. Dave Mackay? I don't know. I can't get the words out of my mouth.
My dad used to speak about him in the same sort of light as used to speak about John White. Like, they were fantastic football. But all that double winning team, they were far ahead of their time. Far ahead of their time. The football they played, and you got to remember the conditions it was, the pitches. But what a team! I mean, obviously I've seen a lot of it, like through YouTube and all of that. But what a player! What an absolute, like, these days you can't even imagine how much he'd be worth. To be honest, there's you know, it was just his talent. My dad always said to me, he said, "I seen something that you never will, and that's us win a league title." And he told me about the team. It was like, well, all right, Jimmy Greaves gets a lot of the plaudits, but the whole team were just superb.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, listen, when you talk football with my dad, I will say, if you ask me a question about my wife or my 5 nephews and niece, get locked in for a 5-hour conversation, because I will talk till the cows come home. You talk about 2 players in Tottenham's history, one being Alan Gilzean, but this man, more importantly, my dad will talk for days on end about this man. He will tell me about the way that he got a broken leg, came back from his injury, his very first game back, broke his leg, came back, and this guy, you look at people we look at now, like when people say the Claude Makelele role, you look at Patrick Vieira, you look at Roy Keane. If they were playing in his day, it would be all outright war. This guy, I mean, you look at it now. I've been on this planet for 44 years. He's won more in his brief time at Spurs, or I say brief, 268 games.
Yeah.
He's won more trophies individually than I've seen since I've been born. That just goes to show the impact. Don't get me wrong, he was in a great team. He was a phenomenal player. He would not take no prisoners. And like you said, Ben, most important thing about him is, obviously we say now we have vice captains and that team had a team of captains. And he was a man of men, wasn't he? He was. He may have not been the official leader, but he was a leader.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible player.
And we'll go on to the next one. And
we're speaking of captains of the football club.
Yeah, but what I was about to say is, you look
many
at
people. This guy is the captain.
That's what I was about to say. When you look at it, you call Bill Nick Mr. Tottenham. You call Ledley King Mr. Tottenham, because he says it's my one club, my one and only club. I don't know what you say about the skipper. I don't know what you can say. I mean, we're all going to talk about him, but like you said, with this has got to be the captain's captain, I'd call him, wouldn't you?
Yeah. He's the king of kings.
There you go.
He was the king of kings.
Yeah.
I mean, it only says 655. I think it with friendlies and stuff, it actually goes into the 800s. I think it was. This man loves Tottenham, and if you listen to him now, I've had the privilege of being on a couple of panels with Mr. Steve Perryman. He loves Tottenham. Like, he bleeds it. You can, like, if you speak about Tottenham and about his the guy that taught him everything, Mr. Bill Nicholson, he will just speak for hours upon hours. He just loves Tottenham, doesn't he, Mark? He loves Tottenham.
Yeah. He's got a great podcast as well that comes out like every other week, the Steve Perryman podcast. But when I was a kid, he was just the skipper. He was the skipper. You know, he brought some of my earliest and fondest memories, like the 81 Cup final. I'd have been 10. You know, like, and he's up there, and he tells a story. You know, is it the 81 final in the replay where he's going to get the cup?
Yeah, and the bloke comes up and hugs him from behind.
Yeah, and he passed away.
Yeah,
he passed away. That chap. But like, what a player! I mean, you got to remember, he was a midfielder before he dropped back into the defence. Yeah, you know, he started off and went in. I only watched one of his podcasts the other day, and he said, like, when he dropped back into the defence, it was like, instead of the hustle and bustle of the midfield, he knew how he wanted the ball from the centre back to him, and so he'd bring it out of defence and he'd pass it to probably Glenn Hoddle, to be honest, because that's it. Just if we were ever
pass it to, is it?
No, if we were ever in trouble in any games, just give the ball to Glenn. Just give it to Glenn. Yeah. You know, but it's fun. I did feel sorry for him in '84 because he was suspended for the final. Yeah, for the UEFA Cup. But like, he was fantastic player.
Yeah. What can you add to that? What you can add to it is obviously, like you said, this man bleeds Tottenham. Yeah. You've heard him on streams. You've heard him. I've been on streams with him, like you, Ben, and also I took my dad when I was back in England to an evening with him, where you get to hear it, and you can just hear this man would talk Tottenham non-stop for a living, like literally. And he always tells you, there's a few things. There's a story he told. He's still got a letter that Bill Nicholson wrote for him. I can't remember if it was to say we're offering you your first full-time contract, or you're going to be skipper or making your debut. But he has that letter framed. Obviously, who wouldn't want that? To work under the great man, to do what he did under the great man. Obviously, a lot of it came under Birkinshaw as well. Yeah, the most played player at Tottenham Hotspur, and I think the only person that would have ever got close to it was Harry Kane. Obviously, for other reasons, it's not going to happen now. You got to look at the youth now, or the products that we've got, that you don't see people staying for 655 games at our club. But you've also got to remember, he came back as a coach. Yeah, with Ozzy. He epitomises what Tottenham Hotspur is. The joy he has when he talks about it. Like I said, like Mark said, started off as a midfielder, went back into defence.
Played right back as well.
You name it, he'd play it just to support the team. Like you said, the skipper, the king of kings when it comes to this, and just goes to show us. It just goes to show, whilst we're doing these advent calendars, how many huge players we have had that have led to glory or done whatever. And Steve Perryman, look at that, 2 cups, 2 FAs, 2 League Cups, 2 UEFA Cups. Not a bad little haul, is it?
No, not a bad one.
I'm sorry to butt in, but can I just add, he scored in 17 consecutive seasons for us. He scored at least 1 goal in 17. I doubt, I haven't Googled it or nothing, but like, I doubt there's any other player has done that.
There's one player.
Maybe Pele.
Not Pele. There's one Premier League player that's done it. The Welsh wizard, Ryan Giggs. I think he actually did it. I think he actually did it for more. But back then it would have been unheard of unless you're a striker. You got to remember, this is from midfield.
Yeah, a midfielder and a defender.
Exactly. So incredible. But now we'll move on to the next one.
It's a guy I think you know about, Sheriff.
Yeah, Mark. I mean, we're going to bring up a certain person, and what I will say is, you would have seen the first 2 pictures have us holding the FA Cup, and this man, who we'll get onto him, but Mark knows this, Ben knows this. Yeah, I say it all the time, and I think a lot of people will agree. The most inspirational captain. Perryman may have been the best and the most iconic, the most inspirational captain ever for me. I'll stop there and let you talk, Ben, and then we'll hand over to Mr. Mabbott over here. Yeah. Oh, for God's sake, there.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah, I always get that wrong as well. I like,
Yeah.
which
But-
way is it?
Like, this man is still the captain of the football club. He's still the captain because he is on the phone whenever you are in need, whenever you are not very well. You pick up the phone and Gary Mabbott's there. He's still doing it. He's still being an inspiration today, showing a lot of the rest of the football club. We won't get into it because it's a happy show.
Yes.
He's still showing the rest of the club how to act as a captain. The work he did with Gaza, how much time he spent on Gaza, getting him through his troubles. Countless people were. It's a shame Arthur's not here to talk about. He called Arthur. He calls everyone.
Yep.
So many people he's just called to lend his support to them, whether they're ill, whether they're going through bad times, mental health issues. This is just the guy. He is everything. And he's not just a good captain. He's a brilliant human being. What a legendary human being this man is. And we couldn't be prouder to have him as a pillar in the football club. We couldn't be prouder. And now we're going to head over to you, Mr. Mabbott, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Sheriff. You have obviously a big inspiration of why you love this man so much, but take it away, sir.
Now, this is obviously why I was invited onto this show.
Yeah.
Because I remember, well, a funny backstory to this is Brian phoned me and said, we've come up with this idea about the advent calendar and we've got number 6 and Gary Mabbott's on there. And he said, I thought of nobody else to phone but you. And I said, oh, okay. Oh, thanks, mate. And he said, just one thing. He said, I'm voice calling you. I don't want to see your ear. Remember that, Brian? I don't want to see your ear.
The phone call, yes.
And he was like FaceTiming me. And so all he could see is my ear. But anyway, going back to Gary Mabott. Right. Right, we're going back to Gary Mabott. Right, I'm going to take you back to March 1991. Right, I was 20. And we got family friends that live in Nottingham. And we played Notts County in the 6th round of the FA Cup. And it was, I had to Google it, like preparation. It was March the 10th, 1991. And so I went because they got us tickets in the away end. I had to stand in the away end. And we were 1-0 down. Then there was an own goal and Gaza won us the game. Anyway, after that, I started to get ill. Or I was ill at the time. I was drinking a lot and people kept saying to me, Mark, you've lost weight, I've never been massive anyway. I'm the sort of person who's got to run around in the shower to get wet.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, oh, you've lost weight. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And I was drinking a lot, not alcohol, but just anything. And eventually, like, I'm like most blokes, I'm all right, you know, nothing's wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I went to the doctors. And so I went to the doctor and I told him what I said, look, I'm drinking a lot and people have told me I've lost weight. And he said, how much should you weigh? So I told him and he said, right, come and step on these scales. And I stepped on them. I was like, well, they're wrong. And it turned out that I'd lost 1/3 of my body weight. 1/3 had gone. And I was like, well, these scales are wrong. He said, no. They were calibrated this morning. And so I had the last appointment that night because he stayed on after he'd done his clinic. And so he said, right, you come back first thing in the morning. He said, don't drive. He said, so I walked to the doctor's and he took some blood out of my arm, like in the little vials. And he said, right, take him to the hospital now. So I took him to the hospital. And as soon as I walked, he said, go to the reception when you get in. So I went to the reception, and they said, we've been expecting you, follow us. I was admitted immediately, straight onto a ward. And they said, oh, you're diabetic. I was like, am I? And so the first meal I had, a nurse come round and said, right, I got to inject you. And so I held my arm out and she stuck a needle in me. And then the next meal I had, they come round again. I stuck my arm out. Oh, no. They said, you got to do it yourself now. They said, we've done it for you once. That's it. You got to do it yourself now. And so I was in hospital for about 10 days, probably. This would have been probably the end of March going into April.
Yeah.
I was probably in hospital for 10 days while they sorted me out. Like, get your doses and all that in like line. And then they let me out and they said, well, here you go. And then I had to keep going back. But anyway, the Gary Abbott thing, because obviously Gary Abbott's like a type 1 diabetic like I am. And so I knew, because everybody knew that it was like, oh, Gary Abbott, he's the one with diabetes. And I was like, you know, and you thought nothing of it. But then suddenly when it's thrust upon me, I was like, I got something to look up to here. Yeah, and then, especially when it came to May, you got to remember, I'd only been at hospital a month. And, like, we played a semi-final against Arsenal. That's where Brian's man, like, did the business. And then you get to the final. And it's widely available on YouTube, right? Because I watched it not so long ago. If you get to the 1991 FA Cup final, as Gary's walking up the steps to collect the cup, he gets to the top, because they used to go up the steps, round a bit of a corner, and then onto the royal thing.
Robots, yeah.
As he's just coming up round the corner, it might have been John, whoever the BBC commentator, oh, Gary Abbott, he's battled diabetes all his life. And I was sat watching it and I thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. So can I. You know what I mean? Because when I was first diagnosed with it, the only analogy I can think is, it's like you've got to learn a new language. Not like French or nothing, because we all know a few words of French. It's like, say if someone said to me, you got to go and learn Mandarin or something, you know, because it's not even in the same alphabet, you know, because the writing's different.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And you have one lesson and then suddenly you got to be fluent in it. It was like all this stuff was just like, oh, you got to inject yourself, you got to do this. But like, and Gary Abbott was always, it was handy because when I was in hospital, I never had this shirt on, but I had the other one on that they wore in the semi-finals. And the doctor come round and see me, he said, oh, you're a Spurs fan. He said, you know about Gary Abbott then? And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, well, he's coming back. Because obviously Gary's from my part of the world. He's from Bristol.
Yeah. As well, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Bristol. And he was meant to be coming to my local hospital to do a talk. And so this was just at the time I was in there. And I was like, is he? And so I thought, right, I'm going to go and meet him. But he cancelled it. But I got to meet him a few years later. And I just, as soon as I met him, I said, look, you're my hero. You are my hero. It's as simple as that. Because the lift he gave me,
your hero as well.
The lift that he gave me from when I was 20-year-old, supposedly in the prime of my life, supposedly, and then to get that news, and then all right, it's lucky I'm a Spurs fan, but it doesn't matter if Gary Abbott played for any other team.
And not down the road.
Yeah, except that lot down the road. I wouldn't have looked up to him so much then, but I'd have always looked up to him. I think even if he'd have been captain of that lot, I'd have still looked up to him, but he wouldn't have been my hero, obviously.
Yeah. There's the story of Gary Abbott. It's a great story, that. I mean, it's an inspiration to have.
The stuff he done for me, because you got to remember back then, all right, we're only talking 32 years ago, but I had to carry sharps about with me, like syringes. I mean, now things have completely changed. Like the diet drinks weren't available back then. Yeah. Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi was about, but there wasn't half the stuff I can get now. I mean, there wasn't the thing I've got on my arm. There wasn't the insulin pumps that I'm going to see if I can get fitted with. There was none of that. Yeah. You know, but it was just like so confusing. It was so confusing. And like, but as soon as they said, like, oh, he's battled diabetes all his life. I was like, yeah. And then when I got to meet him, it's like I said, I ignored Paul Stewart, which will upset you.
Which we're going to chat about that.
Yeah.
I walked straight past Paul Stewart, and I went up to Gary and said, "You're my hero.
Yeah,
I love you."
And we can think of you, but that's the next player on this list, isn't it, Brian?
It is, but can I tell my Gary Mabbott?
Oh, you can tell your story now.
My God, if you're going to miss out talking about that, man, listen, he played every single position for Tottenham apart from goalkeeper. Every single position. Everyone's talking the diabetes and what he's achieved with it and what he does for it. People are forgetting he had his eye socket fractured from an elbow from John Fashanu. My first season ticket when I first started going, he was the skipper. He was the captain. He didn't look like your modern professional footballer, did he? He was a little bit bulkier, but I can't believe he didn't play that much for England. But you talk about, Mark tells that story. One of my parents' best friends used to live 9 doors down the road from us. And one of their young kids broke their leg in a horrific accident. I can't exactly remember how, but it was really bad. All Spurs fans were just at home chilling at their house one day. Doorbell rings. Gary Mabbott. Just at the door. I heard about this person, Andrew, breaking his leg. Spent 3 hours with us as kids, stargazing. Obviously, he used to go to, or not go, he had attended a function because of my Jewish youth club. He was there. But you look at him, like you said, during COVID. Yeah. During COVID, like you said, he spoke to Arthur. He also spoke to Grandpa in Ben and Simeon's for hours. This guy spent hours of his day just reaching out to people who have... This guy, we talk about Steve Perryman off the pitch. Gary Mabbott is the true embodiment of what a Spurs player and one of the nicest human beings to walk this planet. Not forget football. He is an icon to me.
He should be knighted. The fact that he has been knighted is ridiculous to me.
That's actually a really good point. Hopefully the king now, but it still feels weird saying that, the king will put him on some kind of honour list, because what he has done for people with diabetes, for communities, the vulnerable, and like I said, obviously, thank God he got to lift the FA Cup after 87. The nightmare for him. One of the nicest men you could ever meet. So that is Gary Mabbott. Now,
I call him sir anyway. Whether he's knighted or not, he's always sir to me.
So we've got 2 players left. Yeah. One had 2 spells at Tottenham. One had 1 spell at Tottenham. Yeah. Do we want to do it from the first spell, or should we do it from his second spell? Because that's going to detect the order.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do it in the order I've got it. We'll have a quick chat about Mr. Razor Ruddock, who only had 2 spells, but 47 games. I'll go to you first, Ben.
I don't know much about Razor Ruddock. Again, it's a bit before my time. And he's not really... But as a character, we see him all the time on the TV. We've seen him. I think he's been on Come Dine With Me as well, from what I remember. He's just a laugh. He's just a proper man's man. He's just a good, solid bloke. If you'd ever want to go and have a meal with someone and just have a laugh for a couple of hours, I think Razor Ruddock is... Anyone that calls him, he's just Razor. He's just a guy. Yeah. He's just a really nice bloke. And it's the world needs more nice people that just have a laugh. He's had many spells at many football clubs. He's not going to be known as one of the greatest footballers of all time, but he's a top bloke. And that's why he's on our list.
Yeah.
He is. Mark?
He's doing adverts.
He is.
I thought I saw because he's put on a hell of a lot of weight, hasn't he?
He's lost a lot as well.
Has he?
He ballooned up and it got very bad. Got very bad.
Is it some sort of health? Is some sort of men's health adverts or some insurance?
Yeah,
I've seen him in an advert, but I'm like Ben. I can't really remember a lot about him.
Well, I wasn't born, Mark. That's why.
Oh, all right.
But I can remember a lot about him, especially his second spell. Listen, he left under a cloud. Yeah. He left to go to Liverpool, and it was all over the Venables Sugar saga. and he didn't want to be anywhere near Alan Sugar and everything that was going on. So he moved to Liverpool. He loves Tottenham. But he didn't move like others because he wanted a bigger club. He didn't move because he didn't like what was going on within the club. He had a partnership one season with Gary Mabbott. This guy could only ping a ball, but like you said, he's one of the nicest guys off the pitch.
Yeah.
Once you cross that white line, the only way I could describe is elegant psychopath.
Yeah, elegant psychopath.
Elegant psychopath is the only way I could say it. And I will always remember a certain game. We won 4-0 against Leeds. Teddy Sheringham got a hat-trick. Go check this game out. I can't remember the year. Oh, no, it would have been the year of the second period. Teddy Sheringham, this is how good he scored. And the only way I can describe it is a lobbed header.
Yeah.
Long ball from Razor Ruddock, diagonal. The goalie comes out to get it. Teddy Sheringham heads it from outside his area, outside the penalty area, loops it over into the back of the net. His passing was sublime.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I can remember
that.
His
passing was sublime. He could always spot a pass. Gary Mabbott was lucky to have a couple of great partners with him. One being Richard Goff with David Fleet. And this partnership had something. But the great thing, like you said, his health worries. He was on Harry's Heroes when he had the old-time footballers that were played against Germany. And Paul Merson broke down in tears about how bad his health was, his weight. And then Ruddock showed his emotional side. And thankfully, he has started looking after himself. I think he's had some surgery, I think. But he's doing much better. But yeah, he's a cult hero. He is definitely a cult hero. And talking of cult heroes, especially
talking of cult heroes,
this is the one where Ben will probably be talking the most.
I'm not going to talk that much, but of course
we have a certain guy, and if you look at it, 4 of the pictures. Let me take the picture down. 4 of the pictures were at Wembley. I couldn't find a photo of him holding the FA Cup, but people will know exactly. I'll bring the picture up again.
Yeah,
people will know exactly where he's running and exactly what has just happened. Because I may not be able to find a picture holding the FA Cup. I can certainly find a picture of him celebrating, scoring in an FA Cup. Ben, over to you, brother.
I mean, it's always been a laugh that Kim Rez and I wasn't even alive when he scored that goal, so I never got to experience that. But it's just a guy we've had a load of fun with in terms of him just being a really nice guy. He's gone through some awful things, some really dark times. It's one of the things that a lot of the people on this list have gone through really dark times. And we see him as like an inspiration over at the coffee company with myself, Kim and Rez. And he's just a nice bloke. He helps people. He does all these legends dues. And for him to get that goal in the FA Cup final, he's just brilliant. He's just a really top bloke. I remember one day I came home from work one day, and I walked in and my dad was watching that. And I came in, it was an exact goal. It's like, well, why did you leave this? But it's a brilliant moment in the history of football for us. The last time we won a major trophy, and he was part of it. Gazza went off really early in that game with a horrific injury, and we didn't think we were going to get through that game against Ryan Clough, Nottingham Forest team. But we did, because of the brilliance of Paul Stewart and, of course, the rest of the team that got the goals in that game. So it's part of folklore now. And of course, he's the only guy that knows whether a Kit Kat is a chocolate bar or a biscuit.
Mr. Cousins.
As far as Kit Kats, I don't care. As I always put in Ben's comments, I'm not interested in chocolate.
Well, we're moving on. Talk about the football.
All right. But Paul Stewart, I can still remember that equaliser in the cup final, because Lineker had missed a penalty before, Gazza had gone off injured, and we thought, oh no, because let's face it, the 1991 FA Cup final, unless you were a Spurs fan, the whole of the rest of the country supported Forest for Brian Clough, because Brian Clough had not won the FA Cup. And so the rest of the country, apart from Spurs fans, wanted Brian Clough, wanted Nottingham Forest to win, just for Brian Clough. But But like that equaliser was fantastic because Naeem come on to replace Gaza, and he did just as well as Gaza because Naeem played out of his skin.
Whoa.
I know I probably upset you, but Naeem was a suitable. Can I just say then that Naeem was a suitable replacement? No one was ever Gaza. Let's get that in.
That I accept. And he had a decent game, but
yes, he did have a very decent game.
Yeah.
But no one was ever Gaza.
That final.
No. Well, I went to as I said just a minute ago, I went to the 6th round game against Notts County in Gaza. You got to remember, Gaza at that time had only just had a hernia operation.
Yep.
And Gaza literally dragged us through every round to get to that cup final, to get to the cup final.
We're not talking about Gaza.
No.
Talking about Gaza. We're talking about Paul Stewart. So,
yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
what do you remember about Paul Stewart in that game?
The first thing I would say about Paul Stewart is kind of what you touched on now. At the coffee company, you treasure him and idolise him. And he's become a cult hero on the coffee company. But you've got to remember, on Tottenham on Tour, mental health and addiction is something that's very, 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 very important to us. What he did and what he went through in his youth, and he came out and spoke about it, the guy deserves more credit than anyone for speaking out. And then obviously a lot more people came out. So for that, it's incredibly, for me to talk about my addiction and my mental health, you got to be incredibly brave and put yourself out there, which I take great pride in doing. But to come out and talk about what he spoke about, is something on another level. So that, now listen, when it comes to Paul Stewart, one of my first memories of him is when we signed him. He wasn't doing too well to start, and then he scored 2 goals against Sheffield Wednesday during a snowstorm, where you could only see the penalty box, you could only see the halfway, like the centre circle, and I never used to understand it. It's freezing cold, it's snowing, and he's one of those players that wouldn't wear a long jersey. He would always wear short
Father's nails.
So I remember that. But Paul Stewart, actually, if you watch this, mate, you got me into a lot of trouble. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Paul Stewart got me into so much trouble with my parents. If people remember the great old show Saint and Greavesy, it was an iconic Saturday lunchtime football show with one hell of a Spurs legend and one hell of a Liverpool legend. That's where they used to do goal of the season. And Paul Stewart scored an incredible goal, still one of my favourite goals all time in a Spurs game. Go check it out, it's on YouTube. Spurs 3, Coventry 2, 1989. Yeah, 89-90. We're 2-0 down to Coventry. Gary Lineker scores 1. Then Paul Stewart scores a goal where a long throw-ins come. It bounces. He uses his thigh to lob it over a player, like Gaza did with Colin Hendry, but with his thigh, and then volleys it wide angle straight into the top corner. Anyway, getting back to how he's got me in trouble with that. This was how old I've been, 10, and I didn't realise what premium rate telephone numbers were. I memorised the telephone number, and we had telephones downstairs and one in my parents' room. And obviously, you got your bill quarterly. Then I don't even know when you get your home bill now. So when the normal bill was whatever, and then we had a quarterly bill of over £400, and then they asked for it to be itemised, and then they saw it was a number that was constantly called. It was only like a minute and a half. So you had registered your vote, blah blah blah. You have voted for. Let's just say I was grounded for a considerable length of time, all in the name of Paul Stewart. But like you said,
big up Paul Stewart.
Listen, I remember.
Guy.
Oh no, I still got my chicken soup, but it was just any joy, as in entertainment or seeing friends. Nope. But listen, that goal that he scored, you can only imagine scoring an FA Cup final, and that was probably the first FA Cup final that I'd watched from start. And when I say from start to finish, I mean grandstand, Des Lynam, from 9 a.m. till the end, with my late beloved grandparents who are diehard Spurs.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember that FA Cup final, Lineker missed a penalty.
Yeah.
We had a goal disallowed. Lineker had a goal disallowed.
Yes.
Gazza had gone off, and you're like, oh, here we go.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then the move, and then Paul Stewart scoring that goal and the celebrations. Well, last time, like you said, Ben, we won a major trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time.
There you go.
And just to remind everyone, big up Paul Stewart.
Correct.
He's our hero and our Lord and Saviour. But thank you all so much for joining this version of the Tottenham Hotspur Advent Calendar. It's been a great day. Some actual feel-good stories, some stories about life and the soul and the universe. Join us for tomorrow for day number 7, which is going to be a very, very big one. Day 7 is always going to be.
Who's on that one? Can I just
Oh,
ask who?
we can let you know.
We're going to hide it. We're going to hide it.
We're going to hide it. Let's just say,
We'll
it's
be
a-
joined by Ben and Sim from We Are Tottenham TV on day number 7. So
There you go.
join us there. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful festive season. If you don't get to see any of these, come on your Spurs, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you all, and goodbye.